All right, today we're going to break down an absolute masterclass in storytelling. We're going to see how a simple, everyday object can be transformed into the absolute heart of a narrative. So, how do you even do that?
So here's the big question for any writer, right? How do you take a simple prop, something like, say, an old tape recorder, and elevate it, turning it into the actual soul of your story? Well, let's get into it. We're going to unpack exactly how it's done, layer by brilliant layer. Okay, so our story kicks off with a pretty classic setup. We have an inexperienced medium named Zelda, a seance with 8 people, and a secret. Zelda decides to bring a tape recorder along, just in case.
Now, at first glance, this recorder seems to be doing some pretty standard, classic storytelling jobs. But they're powerful ones. It immediately sets up this feeling of betrayal. It can act as an impartial witness to spooky stuff. And yeah, of course, it's a fantastic way to ramp up the horror.
And that's the thing, right? The conflict it creates is immediate. A seance, that's an incredibly vulnerable space. So secretly recording it, that is a major breach of trust. This one decision pits Zelda's, scientific curiosity against the privacy of all her friends.
And this is what I find so brilliant, the duality of her motivation. Her excuse, what she tells herself, is all scientific. She wants to capture what's called EVP, spirit voices on a frequency we can't hear. But the reality? The real reason? It's so much more human. She's insecure. She's terrified of failing, and that tape, that's her safety net. And this is what makes her so complex, right? She's not just some one-note villain.
But then comes the first absolute masterstroke. Zelda gets a pang of guilt and decides not to use the recorder. And that changes everything.
But here's the twist. What if she never even pressed the button, and the seance was recorded anyway? This is where the whole story just flips on its head. The spirit being channeled, Grandma Lana, she's the one who takes control of the narrative. She turns the recorder on herself.
And look at this transformation. It's incredible. Zelda goes from being this sneaky amateur, totally guilty of breaking trust, to a chosen witness. Suddenly, the recording isn't her mistake anymore. No, it's an intentional message from the other side. And just like that, she's completely absolved of her guilt.
So this twist, it adds a whole new layer to what this tape even means. After the seance, it's only Zelda and her friend Lara who find out about the recording, and they make a pact. They decide to keep it a secret from everyone else.
And that decision, it has some pretty big consequences, right away. It forges this intense bond, this shared burden between the two of them. But it also isolates them from the rest of the group. See, they think they're protecting the others from the terrifying sounds on the tape, which, in a way, turns this secret recording into something almost precious, a supernatural gift meant only for them.
But the real question is, what's on this precious tape? It's not just, some ghostly noises or proof of the afterlife. Oh no. It's the story's emotional core. It's the big gut punch revelation, a totally devastating family secret, confessed by Grandma Lana from beyond the grave.
Yeah, as one analysis puts it so perfectly, the recording is transformed from a supernatural souvenir into an emotional time bomb. And it's just sitting there, threatening to shatter an entire family's history. And the fallout from this bomb, it's just profound. First, the image of this beloved grandmother is completely shattered by her own confession. Then, what seemed like a successful seance is now revealed to be a complete tragedy. And finally, Zelda is left with this massive moral dilemma. She's no longer worried about, did I do it right? No. Now she's asking herself the much, much heavier question, should I have done this at all?
So in the final act, this emotional time bomb, it has to be diffused, right? The tape now has to serve its ultimate purpose, which is delivering this incredibly painful truth to Grandma Lana's grieving widower, Grandpa Bill. And so the path to closure is laid out, step by step. Zelda and Laura, they make the gut-wrenching decision to share the tape. Grandpa Bill listens. He hears his wife's final words, her confession. And right there, in that moment of, understanding and forgiveness, he passes away peacefully in his chair. It's as if he was just waiting to hear it. And the scene ends with Laura reaching over and just stopping the empty spinning reel. And that final sound, that click of the stop button, it's everything. It's not just the end of a recording. It's the end of a lifelong secret. It's the definitive moment of closure for the entire story.
And just like that, the journey is complete.
We've watched this simple tape recorder transform from a tool of betrayal to a piece of supernatural evidence to an emotional time bomb and finally into a vessel of truth, forgiveness, and redemption. I mean, what a masterstroke in using a simple prop to drive a narrative.
So this kind of leaves us with a question, doesn't it? What simple objects are sitting around you right now? What stories might they be holding, and how could one of them become the soul of your next great story? Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.